Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and to sort of again do a bit of a follow-up from yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of almost wanted to discuss a little bit about some other changes that I've had to do in the last couple of days that will make sense to me, absolutely, because they're sort of a driving force as to how I'm going to get through the next couple of days and then the next couple of weeks and then the next few months, because tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, will be the 15th of March. We'll have already been halfway into this month. And sadly, ladies and gentlemen, I feel as if this month is not exactly going according to plan. I just feel kind of like for the amount of work I've had to do for my videos and that all throughout this month, I kind of, that feeling where all the work you put into it, it just doesn't really seem to not so much come up to par, but rather it just feels like, it's not really things aren't working to plan. So at this, I'm left with a few options. But first, before I get into those, and I will discuss those actually tomorrow, but what I want to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, is some of the economic changes I've had to make to my life that will have to have the bonus of not only making my pennies go further, but making sure that I go further in the long term. So here is basically the plan. As some of you probably already knew, that I've been a vegetarian all throughout this year so far, purely, and I mean this, ladies and gentlemen, the only reason I was a vegetarian at all was purely from an economic position, that I had the foolish belief that if I stuck to a plant-based diet, that meant I could save roughly about half of my expenditure in a normal day eating meat or fish. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an enormous lie, because in all throughout the process of doing plant-based materials and stuff like that, I don't even save money doing this. To be honest, the amount I've actually had to spend on, fruit or vegetables or or plant-based substitutes or whatever they may be, it roughly equals something to roughly about the same amount as I would pay if I was having meat or fish. So many people might just say, well, why not just eat meat and fish then? If again, you're saying you're doing this from an economic point of view, then if you just swap to that, and again, if it's from an economic point of view, would anybody really care about the ethics or the rights and wrongs of the matter? Not really, if it's just a question of trying to save money, if that's your motive. But then comes this next point, ladies and gentlemen. 3.5 weeks ago, I came down with what I can only describe as food poisoning. And but unfortunately, there's really no way to verify or prove or check any of this. And I spread this delusion of mine that as a result of this experience, it actually caused my stomach to decrease by a third, because I can't really have any overly large portions or anything like that anymore. I usually stick to very small portions, or sometimes not even anything at all. And it's been, goodness knows how long it's been since I've actually last been able to, eat a meal roughly larger than through a boa constrictor. And that's the honest truth, ladies and gentlemen. Meals for me can amount to something as simple as an egg and cress sandwich with nothing else, and that would be all she wrote. And even when I go to the corner shop in the first thing in the morning, the only thing I buy there is a 2-litre bottle of water for less than £1. That is about as much as I'm actually willing to go for to spend on things that are just designed to fill me up and keep me hydrated throughout the week. I wish there was an easier way of saying it, ladies and gentlemen, but I also think from the bottom of my heart, the only reason I am even doing that at all is because I think it's a mental change. Because if I have to get used to the idea that I'm really going to have to stretch myself as far as possible to save money, to lose weight, if I'm not going to go back to the gym, then I've got to change my attitude to my diet and how exactly I'm going to feed and fulfill myself. That is about as far as my thoughts will go, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I wish there was like an easier way of saying this, but it's actually about as difficult a situation I am in than you might possibly think. Because, and I've said this again and again, even if I'm having to like multitask here, so try not to be too worried. If that was just the case, and if I really was doing a lot of the things right now from an economic point of view, because remember, I've slashed my subscriptions, I've slashed memberships, I've slashed virtually. I mean, here are the only things I actually pay for right now. I pay for the loan for my phone, which I'm 1/3 away from finishing. I pay for my dental plan. I pay for, I pay for the tax on my car and for the insurance. But unfortunately, I paid those 2 months ago, so that's all done and dusted for now. At any rate, there's of course next year to consider. And I think honestly, that's it. Unless I can think of really anything on the top of my head. So it's my phone, my dental plan, my car tax, and my car insurance. Oh, and my petrol, but I'll get to the other things about the car in a second. And also my board, which also covers half of the electricity and for the contents insurance. So roughly speaking, all the money I actually have to spend on, bills and expenses, it roughly equates to something roughly about £350 to £400 a month. I'm going to be generous and actually round this up to 400 because if I divide it by the insurance or how much I pay for that a year and the tax, which I pay for those annually, but if we divide those by 12, then it roughly equates to something roughly about just under £400 a month in taxes. Well, in expenses. But aside from these, ladies and gentlemen, there's really not much else I can say aside from the fact that what I have to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is keep the rest of my paycheck going and as long as humanly possible. One symptom of this, ladies and gentlemen, is that I don't even treat myself out on Saturday nights anymore. I just eat what's ever at home. In fact, actually, aside from Saturday and Sunday, I don't even have an evening meal anymore. All I have is a cup of tea. The object of this, ladies and gentlemen, aside from the fact that that's really all I want, it also saves my family a lot on, expenses of, of like meals and stuff like that. Just give a man a cup of tea, and if he's more than happy with it, then is there any need to quarrel? I mean, I know we're in a very tough spot as it is, ladies and gentlemen. And even though actually locally my family is actually quite well off, but it doesn't mean, it doesn't give me the excuse to live a little bit frugally. Just if I can afford it, that is. Which is again another pretty strange oxymoron. You can only really live frugally if you can afford it. Work that one out, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I say. Meanwhile, about my car. Fortunately, one of the great things about my car right now is that I only for the last times I've had to fill it up, I could go literally 16 to sometimes 18 days, almost 3 weeks, for having to fill my car, which you might think to yourself, ladies and gentlemen, is actually this counts for a great deal to actually go this far. But what I will also say, ladies and gentlemen, and this might seem like a very contradictory thing at first glance, is I'm not even sure if this will even save me money in the long term, because even if we are to take into account, it takes roughly about £50, equivalent to 35.5 litres of petrol, to fill my car from 0 to full. There's still, of course, the question of whether or not my driving methods could be improved again to get me from 3 weeks to maybe a full month without having to fill up on petrol. Now, the object of this, ladies and gentlemen, is the usefulness of Sundays, because on Sunday, I really go out of my way, ladies and gentlemen, to not spend a penny on Sundays. In fact, this goes so far that I don't even think about touching my car on a Sunday, because that alone will just save some money in traveling and stuff like that. Also, I don't know, traveling 7 days a week, some people will just get on with it and think nothing of it. But I don't know. I don't know if like it increases the chances of me getting into an accident or anything like that. But no, I think it's just one of those things. It's just what I've got to do. Also, to be honest, it won't be the case this time, because I'm actually going to go out on Sunday and just have a little drive around Alnwick and that, because at this time of year, with winter only like less than 3 weeks away from ending, it would be a pretty nice like little afternoon out, a little explore in the country. That would be just for something different, just for something to do, because it'll get me to stop thinking about money for a good hour or two. And truth to tell, ladies and gentlemen, I could do maybe with a good few days of like not having to think about it. That's a very encouraging thought. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, from the point, again, this economic point of view, is that these seem like very small changes, but as Marco Pierre White does famously remark, perfection is a lot of very small things done perfectly. And if I can exercise this idea to the fullest extent, then I won't ever have to worry about going broke ever again. Because aside from other things, ladies and gentlemen, I do like the start to save feature on my bank. Well, it's a building society, but the point is that I've changed it from £50 every 2 weeks to £200 a week. That will go from my main account into another one, and also any loose change and that shows on the app when I do pay for it via my phone and stuff like that. It immediately goes into fits into my ISA nice and comfortably. So whenever I do spend my money, which is, again, isn't going to be too often, I'm going to make it a point of honor to save the last penny as much as I can. But who knows, ladies and gentlemen? And the way things are going right now, I might even just systematically do like a tally or a chart at the end of each week, just to showcase to you guys exactly how much I am spending on food and stuff like that. Because hopefully, by next week, at the very most, I want to spend just under £35 on food to get me from Monday to the next Monday. So that's roughly about like £5 a day. I do think it is possible, but I think it's going to be also a pretty interesting expedition nonetheless. So I thank you guys so much for watching and listening to what I had to say, and we'll do more of this number crunching tomorrow. Take care, and bye-bye for now.